Hey Rick, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Good morning, Keith. Good to see you. Beautiful
Thank you.
Saturday morning, man. Looks like we're in autumn, eh?
It feels like it, man. It's beautiful. The mornings, the nights is just great. So let's do a topic, and I'll have you kick it off. And the title of this show is going to be the importance of training the mind.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, we talk about that in a number of different ways. We're clearly on record as having um, a very important eye on the ego to make sure that even though it's protecting you, that we don't want it to get out of control and we don't want to be run by it, such that we're always thinking about ourselves before anything or anyone else. I'm talking about the mind in this podcast in a little different way. What I'm talking about is basically trying to train the mind so that the mind is your servant. And remember, we're looking at the mind as something that's a tool, like any kind of tool that you would use. It's something to get you to a place that you can't get on your own or you have more difficulty doing without the mind. So I'm thinking of it as a tool in the sense that you want to make sure that whatever you're focusing on, whatever you direct that mind to view, it's about creating an environment that allows you to become all of the things that you think about. So let me see what I can do to make this a concrete example. When I go into trial, I'm very nervous. There's a million things that can go wrong, and often they do. And so you can be focused on the negative. You can be focused on all of the things that could go wrong, and you start having problems sleeping, and you can't control any of this stuff, and you can't let it go, and you're in this terrible gear mesh. Yeah, you can't get anywhere with it. On the other hand, I find that when I'm able to simply do the best that I can, do the best that I can, do the best that I can, at each and every level of what it takes to present a case to a jury, and then let it go, and then be grateful for the opportunity that I have to represent other people and to be able to speak in court for another human being, and be grateful for the privilege that that gives me. If I can focus on that instead of thinking about all these horrible things that could happen, that makes me much more effective as a lawyer, and it makes me better for my own inner peace and inner calm. And so that capacity for training your mind is so important, because what we think about is what we become. If we're thinking about being jealous, or if we're not even aware of it, but we're jealous, or we're trying to hurt someone else for revenge, or we're not being compassionate, all of those things are going to be what you end up as a human being, and your net value as a human to yourself. So if that's the life you want, that's one way to do it. Have at it. You can have that experience. I prefer to have a different experience. And since I've been on the path and since I've been practicing, my experience has been, to the extent that I can control my mind and think about things and internalize those things and feel those things that I want to be, I'm a better person. I'm more loving, and I'm more compassionate for myself. And I'm also more effective as a human being, more effective as a man, more effective as a father. In every aspect of my life, I've improved. What do you think?
I love that, Rick. I love the idea, and I completely agree. I think that the piece that I started to experience in a more consistent basis was when I was training my mind. I like to think of it as a tool, just like you mentioned. And an example of that would be a computer, right? A computer is only as good as the data that you put into it. That's what the output is going to be. Even when they talk about machine learning or whatever else, it's still data, it's still input. So you control what the input is. And if you put, biased input in there, then your results are going to be biased. If they're going to be influenced by your default settings of complaining, judging everything, fear-based, pleasure seeking, that's what your experiences are going to be like. And those experiences just bring you a lot of suffering. So when I started training my mind, I started training with little things, like things that I wanted to change. And the reason I wanted to change was because I wanted a peaceful life. I didn't have to change them. I mean, like you said, I could have continued to live life one way that was full of suffering. That's one way to do it. Or I could have worked on myself in a way to where I was training my mind to where my suffering was minimized and I got to experience more bliss in my life. And so one of the things that I did, because I was so good at it, was complaining and judging. Complaining for me was like a superpower. I was good at it. I was so good at complaining. And it's one of those things that we talked about before. It's 100% cost and no benefit. Complaining doesn't change anything, but I kept right on doing it. So I said to myself, as easy as it is for me to complain, I wanted it to be as easy for me to be kind. And so I came with this thing to where, like, I just want to sprinkle kindness. And so if you look at the sign behind me, somebody's heard me say that a million times at Mayo Clinic. So an artist painted this that says, you know, sprinkling kindness. And so when people ask me what I do at Mayo Clinic, they say, you work in the office of joy and well-being. What do you do? I said, I just sprinkle kindness all over the place. It's like, that's a cool job. I want to do it. I said, you got the job. You're just not doing it. So, but you got the job. Like, we're taking the applications all the time. So, but I trained my mind that every time I feel like complaining, that I want to work on being kind in every situation. And I also want to train my mind to that anytime that I felt like I want to have something to say, or I had an opinion about something that didn't really matter, that didn't make things better, or whatever the thing was, I would tell my mind that our response is no comment. You got no comment. And that's what literally, I'm like the guy or the person in front of the 1,000 microphones. Well, how do you want to comment on what your teammate or your coworker said about you? You want to comment on like how they're raising their children? You want to comment? No comment. And when I do no comment and train my mind, the sensation to want to say something, it passes, Rick. That inertia, that knee-jerk reaction to where you got to say something, you got to do this. I'm not taking this, or I can't believe it. I just go no comment, and that untrained mind, that ego, just falls back. And next thing I know, what comes forward is this whole peacefulness that raises the moment, that raises the space. And so I am a big fan of what you said regarding training the mind. And it doesn't have to be this kind of training that is full of like, intense, and it's just like you're struggling. It's not about struggling. It's about you realizing that it's important to be wiser in how you live your life. Like we're constantly throwing these moments of life away. They come, they go, things change, and you become wiser. Like, I don't have many of these moments to throw away. And so as they pass, I just want to be wiser with how I use them. And so part of being wise is training that mind. You find yourself getting bothered by every little thing that happens. Your spouse doesn't do it the way you think. Yo, train your mind to let all of that go. It likes a good tussle. You think it's the other person that wants to tussle. No, you tussling with them. It takes two to dance. And so I'm like, nah, I appreciate the offer to dance with you on that, but that's not my song. that's not my song. I like a smooth vibe, something with a lounge like feel to it. They got a nice little jazz singer up there. That's more my style. This year, getting in the mud with each other, I'm good. And so you train your mind to not engage those things, and you are going to have a much different experience. Much different experience.
Oh, it's so true, Keith. I love that history of how you've done that, and it's a constant practice, right? It never stops.
Never stops.
As soon as the camera clicks off, there'll be many things that will be troubling, and you can make a choice. Am I going to suffer about this, or am I going to let it go? Am I going to train my mind to see the good in it? If you can develop a habit of just saying it's all good, or it's all neutral, that's even better. It's all neutral. There's no value to it at all. I'm just in this moment experiencing it, and that's part of life. I so love that. I agree with you completely, and I appreciate the insight.
Yeah, we should do a podcast called "It's All Neutral." It's all neutral. We should definitely do one like that. So let's meet back on that. But Rick, how do you want to close us out here?
Well, I just think the most important thing to remember is that when you train your mind, the benefits come to you internally. You're not going to get any credit for other people from other people. So if your goal is to look good because you think you're training your mind and you want to show everybody how you can do it, that's the exact opposite of the kind of result that you want. That's not going to be, because you're still going to be looking for other people to reinforce you. The idea of training your own mind is so that you have your own inner peace, and your inner peace is the reward for training your mind. So you can't look out at externals for helping you do that. It's got to be totally realized inside, and then accepted inside, and then loved inside. It's kind of like a little confident smile to yourself that I got this. I got this.
Man, so well said, Rick. Great. Well, I love you, Rick. Thank you for a great show.
I love you, Keith. It's really wonderful to do these things. It's kind of like going to church for me every couple days. I
Oh my
appreciate it.
God,
Thanks for
me
including.
too. Thank you, Rick.
I love you. Bye bye.